Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Lada Madhava Indra Bihari Jaya Lada Madhava Indra Bihari Opedana Balaba Kirivardhari Kopidana Balaba Kirivardhari Yashoda Nandana Prajadana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Prajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Lada Madhava Indra Bihari Jaya Lada Madhava Indra Bihari Lada Madhava Indra Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakataya Astatara Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakataya Astatara Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Shalhaidas Thakur Ki Premasakar Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veda Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Gir Govardhan Ki Vrindavanam Ki Navarit Mayapudam Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Gaur Premanandi all glorious these Hema devotees all glorious these Hema devotees all glorious these Hema devotees all glorious to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Not everyone says the Jayom prayers after the Jai Radha Madhava, but it was Prabhupada's standard, so if you give Bhagavatam class, it's a good thing to do, because we're trying to follow the stanzas of Srila Prabhupada. So, we're continuing our reading of chapter 12. Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead of Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. And we're coming to the tail end, and they gave Ram Roy 40 and 41, but he didn't do 41, so I'm going to do 41 and 42. And Archita can do 43 tomorrow. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I guess we're going to chant 41. Is 41 up there? Yeah, beautiful. So we'll go through the words. When people go through the words, actually, the words are where the synonyms are. They're not really in the verse because the endings of the words differ based on the Sanskrit Sandhi rules. So the words themselves you'll find in the where it says the synonyms. Nardaho vacha nunam sunite hati devatayaha tapa prabhavasya sutasya tam gatim dristva abhupayan api vedavadinaha na eva adigantum bhavanti kim nripaha narada vacha nunam sunite pata devatasya tapa prabhavasya sutasya tamgatim Visvabhupayan api vedavadino naivadikantam bhavavanti kim nripa Nardavacha nunam sunite pati devatasya tapa prabhavasya sutasya tamagatim Visvabhupayan api vedavadino Naivadigantam bhavavanti kim nripa Nardavacha nunam sunite pati devatasya tapa prabhavasya sutasya tamgatim Visvabhupayan api vedavadino Naivadigatam bhavavanti kim nripa Please chat. Nardavacha nunam sunite pati devatayas tapa prabhavasya sutasya tamgatim Visvabhupayan api vedavadino Naivadigantam bhavavanti kim nripa Nardavacha Pujite prati devatayas tapa prabhavasya sutasya tamgatim Saripatanapi devavadino Vadigantam bhavavanti kim nripa Nardavacha Pamite pati devatayas Sapasya sutasya tamgatim Visvabhupayan api vedavadino Avadigantam bhavavanti Krsna-krpa. Nardavacha Nam sunite pati devataya Tapapavas Vasutasi Kinkati Shabapaya Pideva Vadigantam Bhavavanti Krsna-krpa. Anybody else want to chant? Nardavacha Nam sunite pati devataya Nardavacha. Narada said, Nunam, certainly, Sunitehe, of Suniti, Patidevataya, very much attached to her husband, Tapa Prabhavasya, by the influence of austerity, Sutasya, of the sun, Tam, that, Yatim, position, Dristva, observing, Abhupayan, the means, Api, although, Vedavadinaha, strict followers of the Vedic principles, or the so-called Vedantists. Na, never. Eva, certainly. Adigantum, to attain. Bhavavanti, are eligible. Him, what to speak of. Kripa, ordinary kings. Translation. The great sage Narada said, simply by the influence of his spiritual advancement and powerful austerity, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Suniti, who was devoted to her husband, acquired an exalted position, not possible to attain even for the so-called Vedantists or strict followers of the Vedic principles, not to speak of ordinary human beings. Please repeat. The great sage Narada said, simply by the influence of his spiritual advancement and powerful austerity, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Suniti, who was devoted to her husband, acquired an exalted position, not possible to attain, even for the so-called Vedantists, or strict followers of the Vedic principles, not to speak of ordinary human beings. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the word Vedavadina is very, very significant. Generally, a person who strictly follows the Vedic principles is called Vedavadi. There are also so-called Vedantists who advertise themselves as followers of Vedanta philosophy but who misinterpret Vedanta. The expression Vedavada-rata is also found in the Bhagavad Gita, referring to persons who are attached to the Vedas without understanding the purport of the Vedas. Such persons may go on talking about the Vedas or may execute austerities in their own way, but it's not possible for them to attain such an exalted position as Dhruva Maharaj. As far as ordinary kings are concerned, it is not at all possible. The specific mention of kings is significant because formerly kings were also Rajarshis, for kings were as good as the great sages. Dhruva Maharaj was a king, and at the same time he was as learned as a great sage. But without devotional service, neither a great king, a Kshatriya, nor a great Brahmana, strictly adhering to the Vedic principles, can be elevated to the exalted position attained by Dhruva Maharaj. Magyana Timurandasya Gananjana Shlokaya Chakshunalitamina Tasmaya Sri Gurave Nama Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastai Budale Shmiti Bhaktivedanta Swamini Dinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvase Shunivadi Pastyatya Deshatani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veda Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Anchakalpatibhyascha Kripasinubhyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I will try to address the different nice points Srila Prabhupada made in this purport and leave time to continue and do the same with the next purport, 42. So Prabhupada calls attention to the word Veda Vadina, which refers to people studying who strictly follow the Vedic principles. And he talks about how expression Veda Vada Rata is also found in Bhagavad Gita. Actually, today I was going through chapter 2 because I didn't finish going through it yesterday, and I just got up to this one verse, which is the one he mentions. It talks about the people, they're bewildered by the flowery words of the Vedas, and they think that that good birth, power, prestige, these sorts of material things, actually the goal of the Vedas, when that's not actually the case. Apparently, something like 80% of the Vedas deal with karma kanda, which is how to get a better material body in this world. But there's also jnana kanda, and there's also upasana kanda. Jnana kanda deals with using the intelligence to separate spirit from matter, and upasana kanda has to do with worship of the Supreme Lord. So there's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about the knower of the Vedas. Savasya chahamriti sani visto matasmitra gyanma ponam cha vedaistra savaram eva vedo vedanta krit vedavit eva cham. So there he says that he's seated in everyone's heart, and from him come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Then he says, by all the Vedas I am to be known. So a real knower of the Vedas actually knows Krishna. Then he goes on to say that he himself is Vedavit, the knower of the Vedas, and Vedanta Krit, the compiler of Vedanta. So actually the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna, but the people who study the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas think the Vedas are meant for teaching you how to get to heaven and enjoy a higher level of sense gratification. But Krishna makes the point that those people who go to heaven, their piety comes out and they come back to this earth again. So by following these Vedas, all they do is get repeated birth and death in this world. And therefore he says those people aren't very intelligent. So in the final portion of the purport, Prabhupada stresses that although there are great brahmanas who follow the Vedas and great rajarshis who are greatly advanced, as much as sages, still these people don't get a position like that attained by Dhruva Maharaj. Because basically, to go back to Godhead, you have to please the personality of Godhead by performing devotional service. And there's actually 3 verses in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says he can be only known by devotional service. And the most famous one that Prabhupada quoted all the time was Bhakti mam abhijanati yo ma bhakti tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantram. 1855. I can be known as I am only by performing devotional service. And then when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. And then there's 1154, Bhaktya Tvananaya Sakya Aham Eva Vidorjana Gatam Drastam Chatatvena Praveshtam Cha Parantapa. At the end of chapter 11, Krishna is telling Arjuna that only by unalloyed devotional service can he be known as he is and seen as you are seeing me standing before you. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. And then in 822, there's another verse. Parasa Purusha Partha Bhakta Labas Tvananya Yasyan Stani Bhutani Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam. That only by unalloyed devotion can one attain the Supreme Person. Although situated in his abode, he is present everywhere. So, but not so many people, although this is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita and the conclusion of the Vedas, it's not so much known in human society. But Dhruva Maharaj, because he had a bona fide guru, Narada Muni, he was enlightened into this path of devotional service. And even though he had serious material desires in the beginning of his practice, the devotional service of the Lord is so purifying that it actually purifies one of all kinds of material desires. There's actually a interesting Leela where I think it's Didi wanted to have the benediction of being able to kill Indra. So her husband Kasyapa engaged her and gave her this process to follow. It was a kind of devotional service. And in the course of following it, she became so purified that she became free from that desire. So she sort of tricked her. But that's the power of devotional service. Even if you begin devotional service with all kinds of material conceptions, if you actually follow your guru's order with great strictness, you can become completely free. So it's recommended to perform devotional service without desire for material enjoyment and without mental speculation. There's that nice verse in the Nectar of Devotion. Abhyasita anyabhilasita sunyam jnanam garbhani navritam anuklayana shilanu shilam bhakti uttamam. That devotional service should be performed without desire for material benefit, without desire for mental speculation, and without desire for mystic perfection. But even if it's contaminated by these things, the process itself is so purifying, you can become free from all these. So at the end, Dhruva Maharaj didn't want the great kingdom. He had no animosity to his stepmother or his brother, and he just wanted the association of the Supreme Lord. So this exalted state of pure devotion, where one's allowed to enter the kingdom of God, is only attained by engaging in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And because he took his guru's order very seriously, he attained success. And therefore, his Leela is inspirational to us, showing that even if we have different desires that are incompatible with pure devotional service, if we follow our guru's order rigidly, we'll actually become completely pure, just as Dhruva did. So those are a few thoughts about this purport. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we go on to the next purport? Yes? Thank you for visiting Sri Sri Radha Govinda Mandir. Really? Wow. Right. Well, I don't. Of course, I'm not aware of all the rulers on the planet, but basically, the Rajarsis would govern their kingdoms according to the direction of the revealed scriptures. So, if there's anyone actually doing that anywhere, then such a person would be a Rajarshi. But of course, I don't know how broadly you can say that. Suppose somebody's like I imagine some of these Islamic people are very, claim to be ruling according to the Quran, but I don't know how purely they actually are, or maybe. But I don't know of any in the Vedic tradition who's like ruling their kingdom according to Manu Samhita or Bhagavad Gita. So generally, in the present day, the leaders are supposed to have advisors who are brahmanas, right? But they have advisors, but these advisors aren't brahmanas. For example, they're not free from illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. So generally, they're people. The administrators are advised by different business interests in such a way that their business will flourish, as opposed to somebody else's business. So they're lobbied by different special interest groups which have nothing to do with the interest of the personality of Godhead, but have the interest to do with some political or economic, vested interest. So, but Prabhupada's program of purifying leadership was to, of course, when you have a democracy, you have to you have elected leaders. So if you bring the people in general to a higher level of Krishna consciousness, then they'll elect more Krishna conscious leaders, and that's desirable, and that's what we try to do by chanting Hare Krishna in public and distributing prasadam and distributing books. We try to educate the people in general so that they'll elect more God conscious leaders. But if the ruler wasn't elected, but was was somebody who was chosen from a royal family, that you could educate people, who are growing up in the family with this Vedic knowledge. But basically, you have to make the knowledge available. And what we could do as brahmanas is we could try to advise the present leaders, and that's something that Prabhupada did do. From time to time, he would write people who were mostly in the Indian government, give them some Krishna conscious advice. He even wrote Gandhi giving him some Krishna conscious advice. So we can do that. We can advise President Trump according to the teachings of the Vedas. And there's no guarantee that he would follow them, but he would become purified by hearing them, and we would become purified by doing that brahminical task of educating the leaders, which is something. Because otherwise the leaders will continue to hear advice from people who are materially motivated and not be able to improve the quality of their leadership. So guess that's about all I can say about that. Anything else about the, yes? How to get to higher planets. Yeah, how to get to higher planets, yeah. Yeah, well, the idea is that most people aren't ready to completely surrender to Krishna, so they're given things to move them in that direction. So they're given some material motive to regulate their life, so to come up to a higher level of consciousness. But most of the Vedas are just dealing with elevating them to like a heavenly planet after this life, and not to the kingdom of God, because people are so much addicted to the conception of sense gratification, they can't think beyond that. People who are disgusted with sense gratification are actually very highly elevated in society, and then the people who are beyond that realize that by their mental speculation they can't actually solve their problems, and are ready to approach spiritual authority and get divine knowledge. They're even more rare. So therefore, that Krishna speaks that verse. Let's see. Tamimam pushpam vaksham. How's it go? Yamimam pushpitam vakyam pravadanti vipaschita veda radhavata parta nanyad astiti vadanam kamatmana svagapram. It's not one of my favorite verses. Otherwise I'd know it better than I do. Let me just call it up here. I'll read it because it does give a little insight into it. Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 42 and 43. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification, opulent life, they say that there's nothing more than this. So because that's where their attachment is, they ignore the fact that that's not the end of the Vedic knowledge. It's not the high point of the Vedic knowledge. The high point is to actually realize that we're spiritual beings, and we're meant to live in the spiritual world, and that this human form of life is an opportunity to get there, and therefore it should be fully utilized for self-realization, and not to maintain the conception of material enjoyment, which keeps us in the material world. That's okay? So we'll go on to 42. I'll just read it myself. Ya Panchavarsha Gurudara. Ya Panchavarsha Gurudara Vakshanaya Benena. Yato Hridayena Duyata Vanamada Deshakam Titam Prabhum Tigaya Tat Bhakto Gunai Parajitam. The great sage Narada continued, just see how Dhruva Maharaj, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at the age of only 5 years, and under my direction underwent austerity. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotees. Purport: the Supreme Godhead is unconquerable. No one can conquer the Lord, but he voluntarily accepts subordination to the devotional qualities of his devotees. For example, Lord Krishna accepted subordination to the control of Mother Yashoda because she was a great devotee. we spent the whole month of Kartik talking about that pastime, how that Krishna couldn't be bound, but because Yashoda had so much love, he finally agreed to be bound by her. The Lord likes to be under the control of his devotees. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that everyone comes before the Lord and offers him exalted prayers, but the Lord does not feel as pleased when offered such prayers as he does when a devotee out of pure love chastises him as a subordinate. The Lord forgets his exalted position and willingly submits to his pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj conquered the Supreme Lord because at a very tender age, only 5 years old, he underwent all the austerities of devotional service. This devotional service was, of course, executed under the direction of a great sage, Narada. This is the first principle of devotional service, hado guruvashrayam. In the beginning, accept the shelter of a guru. In the beginning, one must accept a bona fide spiritual master, and if a devotee follows strictly the direction of the spiritual master, as Dhruva Maharaj followed the instruction of Narada, then it is not difficult for him to achieve the favor of the Lord. The sum total of devotional qualities is development of unalloyed love for Krishna. This unalloyed love for Krishna can be achieved simply by hearing about Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya, accepted this principle that if one in any position submissively hears the transcendental message spoken by Krishna or about Krishna, then gradually develops the quality of unalloyed love. And by that love only, he can conquer the unconquerable. The Mayavadi philosophers aspire to become one with the Supreme Lord, but a devotee surpasses that position. Not only does the devotee become one in quality with the Supreme Lord, but sometimes he becomes the father, mother, or master of the Lord. Arjuna also, by his devotional service, made Lord Krishna his chariot driver. He ordered the Lord, "Put my chariot here," and the Lord executed his order. These are some examples of how a devotee can acquire the exalted position of conquering the unconquerable. So it's a very important topic, how Krishna is conquered by the love of his devotee, and how we can acquire that love. And the good news is the love is already there. And Prabhupada would often quote the verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhu Kabunai Shravanadi Chitte Karye Udai. Love of Godhead is already situated in the heart of the living entity. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. Sadhu Kabunaya, it's not something to be gained from outside. Shravanadi, when one engages in devotional service beginning with hearing, Shuddha Chitte, his consciousness is purified. Karya Udaya, and that love which is already there becomes manifest. Here, the Prabhupada in his purport reminds us of the pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where there's a conversation between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya is asking Ramananda Roy how to advance spiritually. And Ramananda Roy is quoting all these shlokas and giving all these ideas from the Shastra. And Lord Chaitanya said, "No, that's external. Go further." And then he comes up with another, "No, that's external." So the first thing he finally accepted was this famous verse, which Prabhupada is paraphrasing here, but is actually it's from the prayers of Lord Brahma in the 10th canto, chapter 14, text number 3, which I should actually rememorize because it's an important one. Yane prayasamudapasya namante eva jivanti sanmakartam bhavadiyavartam stane stita shridikatam tanuvan manobir ye prayasojita chito prasitaischri lokyam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, mind, and words offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone in the three worlds. So we have the opportunity to do this because Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to have classes every morning on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and where we hear the message of the personality of Godhead. And by hearing that message, the love which we have in our heart will gradually be awakened. I was hearing a class by Guru Prasad Swami. He comes here for Rath Yatra every year. I think he has some disciples in the area, and preaches in South America and the Southwest U.S. He came to Krishna House one April, and he was saying in this class that Krishna enjoys being conquered by the love of his devotees, and he considers it in his self-interest to treat a devotee in such a way that his love will come to the point at which it will conquer him. So Krishna has a program for each of us of trying to bring us to that point where our love will conquer him, which is an interesting conception. So we do have within our heart love powerful enough to conquer Krishna. So we have to follow our gurus as enthusiastically as Dhruva Maharaj followed Narada Muni. And the word, actually, the word Dhruva means fixed, like the pole star is fixed in one place. All the other stars go around it, but the pole star is fixed in one place. So he was fixed in his vow to execute devotional service. And he was so intent on chanting his mantra that it choked up the universal breathing processes, right? So when we chant japa in the morning, our japa isn't so focused that it's going to choke up the universal breathing process, because we're thinking about this and thinking about that. But every morning we can practice actually fixing our mind on the mantra, because that's what, you know, Dhruva got this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, from Narada Muni, and he chanted it with such concentration that he was able to choke up the universal breathing processes. So we have to chant our mantra with complete absorption, without any distraction, understanding that this mantra is non-different from Krishna. Krishna himself is dancing on my tongue. I'm embracing him with my ears, and we shouldn't focus on anything else when we're chanting these 16 rounds. And the more we chant with complete concentration, the more successful we'll be, just as Dhruva was completely successful because he was completely absorbed in the order of his guru. He fixed his mind on the divine mantra, on Krishna, through the means of the divine mantra that he received from his guru. So what time is it? We have about 11 and a half minutes for questions and comments. Does anybody have any questions? Sitaram!
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krsna-krpa Prabhu. Thank you for your class. You are saying that we have, this love for Krishna, this ability to conquer Krishna, and it's there within us. It's within the seed has the potential for becoming a big tree. But we sometimes Krishna is so he's so far, but yet he's still so close. So many times in my life, I used to say, Krishna, don't worry about me too much. I'm so useless and so far. So I am simply doing what I could do, but don't try to, don't even think about me. But on the other hand, last night we were talking, me and Mukunda, after the little problem with the smoke. So we were saying, are we really in connection with Krishna, in charge of all these things, the smoke and causing disturbance, and the devas maybe, was in charge of blowing the breeze somewhere else, and it was blowing into the devotees' building. Everybody was, complaining about the smoke. So how are we to understand that we are really communicating? My point, this is my point, how we are really to perceive that we are communicating with Krishna or the devas who are his chief close servants in the material world. We need so many things. We need Lakshmi to renovate this temple. It's so difficult to get it. We need some siddhis to convince people. We don't have all those siddhis, but we have the Veda Anta, the conclusion of the Vedas. As you were saying, Vedanta, Veda Krit. We have all this information. This is very, very nice, but how are we to know? How are we to conclude? Even our great Srila Prabhupada, he just left us in mystery who he actually was, or who he actually represents in the spiritual world, and how we are simply trying to put the pieces together to relate to that. He said, I remembered Krishna. I remembered you, my dear friend Krishna. I call out to you sincerely today. When I remember you frolicking in the fields and day after day. But when that day will be mine again, So it's like a mystery. Everything is still like so far-fetched. Could you help me to clear some of my doubts? Because even though I have this on the path, I still have so much doubts. Yeah. Please dispel these doubts.
Well, basically, it's easy to understand that Krishna, being seated in everyone's heart, he can perceive if we're actually doing what our Guru said, and he can be pleased if he sees that we are. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. So it's easy for us to understand that Krishna is pleased with us, if we're actually following our Guru, if we're actually doing, because Krishna's a very straightforward personality. And we can also see that we're also protected in different circumstances by Krishna, that we would have suffered more than we did if Krishna wasn't protecting us. And there's many cases in the Hare Krishna movement of people being protected by Krishna, and many of us in our own lives experience being protected by Krishna at different times. So we gain some faith in the reality of Krishna and it's his being there. Basically, the process of overcoming doubts is mentioned at the end of the 4th chapter, where Krishna says that the doubts that have arisen in your mind due to ignorance should be slashed with the weapon of knowledge, armed with yoga, stand and fight. So we're meant to take the knowledge of the scripture and use that to slash the doubts. And the doubts generally are just born of the different material qualities, the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, the mode of goodness. They have different levels of doubts, But but we understand our position. What's interesting to me is that back in the 2nd chapter, Krishna says, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, nice Trigunya Pravarjana, Nidvanda Vasto Yogashema Atvan, in verse 245. The Vedas deal mostly with the 3 modes of material nature. Rise above those three modes of nature. Be transcendental, be established in the self, be freed from all concerns for gain and safety. So basically he's just telling Arjuna, just be transcendental, don't take all these material concoctions to be reality. They're just interactions of the three modes. You're my servant, my orders you fight, just go for it and do it, So we actually was reading a verse recently where Krishna says to Uddhava that mostly people they have affection for their gross and subtle body, but in reality they should have affection for me. Right? So we are pure spiritual souls. We have nothing to do with this gross material body. We have nothing to do with the subtle mental concoctions of the mind. Our only business is to try to please our beloved Master, Sri Radha Govinda, and enjoy transcendental bliss from the rendering the service, and so we shouldn't, because we've been conditioned by all these material thoughts and desires from time immemorial. We think they're some essential part of our self or our makeup, when they have nothing actually to do with us. It's like there might be a cloudy day, right? But we're not disturbed because we know the sun is up there. It's just covered by the clouds, So all these different. We may have a cloudy day in terms of being like depressed or confused or something, but it has nothing to do with our spiritual self. It's just like a covering, just like the cloud is a covering in the sun. So basically, Krishna's arguing that don't be bewildered by these different conceptions born of the three modes of material nature. Just be established in this truth which I'm revealing to you, and act on that platform. Yeah. Armed with yoga, stand and fight. So we have approximately 2.5 minutes. Does anybody have anything to say?
What was it you said that Guru Prasad Swami mentioned?
He said, that Krishna enjoys being conquered by the devotee's love. So he acts with the devotee in such a way as to bring his love to that point that it'll conquer him.
Yeah,
which is a pretty amazing statement, isn't it? It's really stuck in my mind,
I never heard that before. That's really
nice.
I
know. But it makes sense, Yeah. So that's why he treats us in very suspicious ways. He has some plan of bringing our love up to that point, although we haven't really understood it. We haven't understood how he's going to do it. But he has a plan. At least we understand that we have a guru and he's given us things to do, and we can do the things our guru gave us, and the Lord in the heart will witness that and bless us. Yeah. So thank you for your kind attention. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.